Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Sports Huddle. This is episode 4, brought to you by Six Rivers Media, the only locally family-owned newspaper and media source in the region. I'm Dylan Young with my friends J.D. Vaughn, Jeff Birchfield, and Andrew Smith. We'll welcome you back. Guys, it's good to be back here with you. We had a very entertaining Friday night. Big region games, some big games happening. We'll get to those in a minute. And some big games happening here in week 4 of the Tennessee High football season. And we'll get to those as well. But first, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Lazy J Farms Old Fashioned Butcher Shop, for sponsoring the podcast.
Lazy J Farms has been raising the finest cattle and all-natural pork for 3 generations on the family farm in Fall Branch. Their blonde Aquitaine herd offers a leaner, healthier, and more tasteful beef. And the butcher shop is local, farm to table, and 100% authentic. This is the way your grandfather shopped for me, with steaks cut to order, quality assured, and ready to ship to your door. Open Thursday through Saturday on Bloomingdale Road in Kingsport. Come see us.
All right, y'all, let's jump right into it. Week 3 recap. I think first we got to start off with last week's Sports Huddle game of the week, the 54th musket ball between David Crockett and Daniel Boone. Guys, I got to say, I was a little surprised at this score. David Crockett won on Friday night 35-7 against Daniel Boone, ended up taking a 28-0 lead at halftime and just finishing it out from there. I want to get your thoughts from each one of y'all. JD, I'll start with you first. What were your thoughts of this game?
Well, like you, I was surprised by the score. Not so much surprised that David Crockett won because, as we've established this year, David Crockett is ready to overcome anything. I mean, they've already been down by 2 touchdowns. They've overcome that in their season opener. Well, not 2 touchdowns, but 10 points rather. But and then last week they blow a 2-touchdown lead at Cherokee. But what happens? They come in, short memory, they bounce right back, get the win in the Musket Bowl. First time they've won this game since Prince Colley's senior year, which feels like 2020 in a good way for Crockett. But you get the sense that Crockett really has a chance to go to the playoffs and maybe do something this year, young as they might be.
Jeff, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, sort of piggyback on what JD's saying. You know, talked to Hayden Chanley before the season started. He's talking about that sophomore class, 2020. He compared them to the Prince Colley class. You know, they're a little young this year, maybe a year or 2 away. Everyone's thinking, but great win in the rivalry game against Daniel Boone. A.J. Wynn, the quarterback, you know, got a couple really good receivers there with Zeke Sloan and LaMarcus Dunn. And, you know, I know they did quite a bit of damage against the Trailblazers.
Yeah. Andrew, you talked about the sophomore QB battle on last episode, and Jeff brought up A.J. Wynn and what he did. He threw for 176 yards on 13 of 19 passing and 3 pass touchdowns. What did you like about him? And also, what was it about Cole Stevenson in that game? He kind of took a little bit to get going.
Yeah, I mean, with AJ, I mean, I talked about it last week. You mentioned which quarterback can step up, make plays in a big game, and obviously AJ did that. 3 passing touchdowns. Also had a rushing touchdown in there too. Mm-hmm. He just felt very composed, very poised. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact of him playing that game at home. I think for a young quarterback, being able to play a big game in front of the home fans in a locker room that you're in every day, coming out of that locker room every day, it just helps the confidence. It helps the poise. And on the flip side, with Cole Stevenson, that's a tough environment to go make plays in, especially as a young guy. And, you know, you mentioned it took him a little bit to get going. Obviously, no points at halftime. So with Cole, just kind of finding a groove, finding a rhythm, it's not uncommon for young quarterbacks to take a little bit of time, a few games into their first true season as the guy to really start to build momentum and to have a feel for things.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, before this game, none of the players on David Crockett's roster had won a Musket Bowl. And, you know, of course, that changed on Friday night. Senior Zeke Sloan and LaMarcus Dunn came up big. Zeke Sloan had 3 touchdowns. He had two reception touchdowns from A.J. Wynn there in the first half, and then had another one in the first half, too, to help that 28-0 lead to start the third quarter there. And David Crockett just finished it from there. And like I said, I was just a little surprised. I thought it would be a little closer. But David Crockett really showed what they were about, that sophomore class. And, you know, even, you know, the seniors are stepping up, making really, really good plays for this Pioneers team. On to Dobyns-Bennett and Westridge. JD, you were at that game. Also another game I was a little surprised by the score. Dobyns-Bennett 42, Westridge 13. I thought it could be a little closer, especially with the momentum Westridge had coming into this game. What did you see in this game?
Well, a lot of people thought that Westridge seriously had a chance this year. I thought Westridge had a chance this year, but one thing I've learned from this game, never take Joey Christian at his word for when he says someone is or isn't going to play. Tegan Begley, doubtful all week. Next thing you know, Tegan Begley plays. Not only does he suit up, he plays against Westridge, and he goes for a $143, 2 touchdowns, and Westridge just unable to slow him down. It's unbelievable what a difference Tegan Begley makes. Obviously, he missed the Greenville game, and just the spark that he gave Dobyns-Bennett when he came out on Friday night, just absolutely a shot in the arm for the Indians. And Westridge just unable to get its passing game going. And not all of that was on Trey Frazier. There were several passes that were dropped. So he's got to get some help there. And Westridge did find success in its double wing, but it was too little too late. Ethan Amix goes for nearly 100 yards, but overall, the Dobyns-Bennett just bent but did not break defensively. Westridge did move the ball at times, but not consistently. Dobyns-Bennett moved it consistently with Corday Moore doing a pretty good job in the backfield as well as Tegan. And Austin Sykes, we got to see him throw deep, something he has not really done the first 3 weeks or first 2 weeks. He overthrew 3 receivers on Dobyns-Bennett's opening drive, but he bounced back from it. And he, quite honestly, he had the best game he's had. He was dropping dimes. He dropped a dime to Rome Pruitt for a touchdown there in the second half. And just an overall good effort by Austin Sykes and Tegan Begley and really the entire Indian offense just for owning the line of scrimmage in this game and controlling it from start to finish. This was a big win. This was a must-win for Dobyns-Bennett and just a big win all around. This is – you have to get the impression – we'll get to the Jefferson County game in a minute, but the Region 1-6A picture could change dramatically this Friday. Should Dobyns-Bennett win, you get the vibe that they might be on a collision course with Science Hill for the region championship this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Tribe, they keep that streak going against Sullivan County schools and grab a Region 1-6A win as Westridge takes a Region 1-6A loss. And you mentioned there's some big region games coming up, and we'll get to that momentarily. Another region game that happened, Jeff, that you were at. Science Hill went over there to Dumpling Valley in Jefferson County, took down Jefferson County 20-14. Baylor necessary game, huh?
Oh, my gosh. You talk about impact player. He's been our player of the week both weeks that he's got to play so far. Had a fantastic game, the Elizabethan game. In this game, did a little bit of everything. He rushed for 2 touchdowns. He threw for a touchdown, when he was in the Wildcat. Also, he punted the ball. Big punt he had in the fourth quarter, pinned him back. And then defensively, where he really, really makes a difference. The linebacker had 16 tackles and an interception. I mean, he's just amazing. He's our defensive player of the year last year. I think he's definitely a leading candidate for our player of the year this year, for both sides of the ball and all. But it wasn't just Baylor. I mean, the Science Hill line did a good job. We talked last week how big that Jefferson County line is. Had 2 kids over 300 pounds, and yet Science Hill on that final drive, they missed a field goal, or they would have actually clinched the game, there about a minute and a half left in the game. But some good hard run at Aiden Perry, had some tough yards early on, and Ian Mathis came in late and had like 9 carries for 59 yards, so he's sort of able to rack up a little bit there at the end. But, Science Hill, very impressive, both sides of the ball. Like you said, Jefferson County, just such a tough place to play at.
Proud of our kids. We made plenty of mistakes, especially on the offense. Credit to their defense too and their game plan and them getting after us. But we were resilient. We kept fighting on offense and kind of got it going at the end. But our defense was just outstanding. I thought that was probably one of the best defensive performance overall. We held a good rushing team down. We made caused some turnovers. We played very, very well in the secondary, and the linebackers, outside linebackers, and the D-line really absorbed some of those blocks, to let those guys, linebackers, run free. So I had a lot of kids that played very well on that side of the ball, and I thought that was the key to how we won the football game. The defense just stepped up. We had a couple of things go wrong, especially we let the touchdown on the kickoff return, and momentum was going their way. and we were able to make the big plays when we had to. Lake Anderson made a huge play for a behind the line stop, which really helped us out a lot. So, it's just a lot of things that happened there that we could have kind of gave up, but we didn't. We kept fighting and kept it going, and that's going to help us have a chance to win this conference.
Yeah, and I think we were all curious to see how this Science Hill offensive line and defensive line would match up against the Jefferson County line. Of course, Jefferson County won that region last year, and it was mostly because of that offensive line that they had, able to move those boys forward. But I think Science Hill answered that question there. They can handle the big boys up front, and they got a well-put-together line this year for sure. Moving over to where I was at on Friday night, Sullivan East and Volunteer. This game started off very sloppy on both sides of the ball, to be honest with you. And a lot of penalties there to start off the first quarter. But then Sullivan East and that air raid attack, they got going. Peyton Lingerfeld found his rhythm. He found Blue Prophet for a touchdown there at the end of the first quarter. Then found Hayden Jones for a 65-yard touchdown to begin the second quarter. And within a span of 5 minutes, Sullivan East was up 14-0 on Volunteer. And winding down that second half, Volunteer actually found some momentum there. They threw a 41-yard heave to score on a last-second touchdown there in the first half. And that momentum carried over, and they tied the game there in the third quarter. And Sullivan East ended up breaking that tie with a field goal. But Volunteer marched down the field, I think it's like 85 yards, took the lead 21-17. With 8 minutes to go in that game, and that was just too much time for Lingerfeld and the offense to work downfield. They marched 83 yards down the field, down the field, and Blue Prophet on that last drive had 4 receptions for 48 yards to really help them. So, you talk about half the yards that they had to go, Blue Prophet had, and Peyton Lingerfeld was just finding him, and Prophet was doing a good job getting into open space there. And once they got down there to the 8-yard line, offensive coordinator Stan Badwell over there at Sullivan East drew up a little quarterback run play. Peyton Lingerfeld ran it perfectly and scored the touchdown, put Sullivan East up. And Volunteer had about 3 minutes to try to put something together to, maybe take the lead and win this game, or even maybe a possible field goal. But they were just trying to air it out there on that final drive, and just couldn't get anything together. And that defensive stop for Sullivan East sealed the game from there. And Peyton Lingerfeld, we talked about him. Andrew, I know you and I have talked about him trying to find his rhythm. I think he did that on Friday night. He finished 28 of 36 through the air for 295 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. And, of course, that lone rushing touchdown being the go-ahead touchdown to give Sullivan East that win. Their first win of the season, and a big Region 1 4A win for the Sullivan East Patriots there. But I do want to give a shout-out to Keelan Relaford on Volunteer. He's been putting up numbers on the backfield, the running back there for Volunteer. He had 161 total yards in that game last Friday against Sullivan East, and he put up over 200 yards against Lakeway in Week 2. So he's been doing a really, really good job for the Falcons over there at Volunteer, and kind of helping them out. But good win by Sullivan East, of course, 24-21 against Volunteer. Really back and forth game. Sullivan East ends up prevailing in that game. Andrew, you were over there at Twin Springs. They invited UNACA over there. Twin Springs ended up winning 39-20. I think your game kind of started out with a lot of penalties too. What'd you say?
Like your game, my game of Twin Springs UNACA, a bit sloppy. Kind of stayed that way a lot of the game. Teams combined for 35 penalties. For Twin Springs, with a lot of procedural stuff, false starts, illegal shifts. But ultimately, they started to find a rhythm, and a lot of that was because of Clay Ross, their quarterback. He was just a massive threat running the football. 267 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. That's not something you normally see out of a quarterback, but Twin Springs had a lot of success running him, both in option plays and just straight-up designed quarterback runs. Had a couple of 86-yard touchdown runs there in the first half. UNACA just struggled to stop the run, and that kind of goes back to their Week 1 game against Chucky Doak as well. They gave up 70 to the Black Knights, and a lot of that was on the ground. So for Coach Dobyns-Bennett and the Rangers, a lot of soul-searching to do in terms of how can we stop the run game. It's been a struggle for them early on. But overall for Twin Springs, it was very strong. Their offensive line looked very solid. It wasn't just Clay Ross that although he led the way, it wasn't just him running the football. Julian Pasquale had over 100 yards. As a team, they ran for 472 yards. So very strong rushing attack from Twin Springs. But it didn't come without a cost. It was still a very physical game. Andrew Myers, running back, kicker, kind of a little bit of do everything for the Titans, went down in the second quarter with a apparent arm injury. Asked Keith Warner what was going on. After the game, he said, we don't really know what the prognosis or how long he could be out for is. So something to monitor there for Twin Springs. But it also wasn't all bad for Unaka. I want to give a shout-out to Connor McKinney. Kind of did a little bit of everything for the Rangers on Friday night. Put him at running back, 105 rushing yards, at quarterback a little bit, 45 passing yards, a receiving touchdown for Brandon Repass, 69 receiving yards, and he returned a kickoff for a score. So McKinney did a little bit of everything, just a little too little, a little too late in terms of just trying to get Unaka into the game. They got back within 2 scores early in the fourth quarter there, but just a drive, strong rushing drive from Twin Springs kind of put it away late.
Yeah. So it wasn't all bad for Unaka.
No,
could take
no.
some positives
Absolutely.
from that too. So another game that happened last week, we had a top 10 showdown in that 3A against number 10 Unicoi County and number 8 Pigeon Forge. Unicoi County went down there and stole that game from Pigeon Forge, 35-14. Guys, I think Unicoi County passed the test. You got thoughts, JD?
I don't know if stole is the right word. Dominated might be more of the right word. Pigeon Forge runs that smoke and mirrors wing tee offense, and Coach Scott Meadows is famous for it. The retiring Coach Scott Meadows, I might add. But just an unbelievable effort by Colby Jones, and that's a name you're going to hear a lot this year and next year. Unicoi County's Mr. All Everything. Another big game this week. Branson Saltz goes for over 100 yards. Garrett Sellers comes up big on the receiving end. Just an unbelievable game. So it came kind of full circle for Colby Jones. He became Unicoi County's quarterback. He came in the Pigeon Forge game last year, finished it out, and he was the starting quarterback from then on. So it kind of came full circle for Colby Jones this week. He gets it done. Unicoi County is undefeated, and this is a very dangerous Unicoi County team, guys.
Yeah, the Devils are rolling right now, and of course with that win, and then in the Tennessee Sports Writer Association polls, Unicoi County jumped up to number 6 in the state, so that's a big win for them coming in at number 6. And of course Johnson County in that same region, they came in at number 8 in the state this week. So you got 2 teams in that Region 1 3A that are sitting right there in the top 10 of the state there. So that was the recap for Week 3. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Lazy J Farms Old Fashioned Butcher Shop, for sponsoring the podcast. And guys, make sure you all like and subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And we'll get to our Sports Huddle Game of the Week right after this break.
The Lazy J Farms Tailgate Box offers great value all season long. Get 40 pounds of meat for only $116. That's 5 pounds of beef patties and 3 pounds of chicken breasts, 1 pound of thick cut bacon, 3 packs of premium beef hot dogs and 2 packs of Chicago dogs, and 4 pounds of thick cut pork chops, all for $116 at Lazy J Farms Butcher Shop in Kingsport. Visit us online at lazyjbeef.com.
All right, y'all, time for the Sports Huddle Game of the Week, and we got a good one this week of Region 1 6A battle, and this has been a really, really good one the past few years between Jefferson County at Dobyns-Bennett. Of course, the Patriots of Jefferson County come up to J. Fred Johnson Stadium to play the Tribe this year. JD, what do you got for us?
This feels kind of weird to say. The last time Jefferson County came up here, they won 35-21. They had never won in Kingsport until 2021. So it's been the past 2 meetings, of course, have been in Dandridge. Last year, the Indians had a 14-6 lead but couldn't score again. Jefferson County goes on to win 25-14. Jefferson County goes on to win the region. First time in a long time. You're talking almost 30 years. 1994, if Jefferson County wants to repeat as region champions, the Patriots must have this game because a loss drops them to 0-2 in the region and potentially knocks them out of the conference championship race. They could still potentially get a home playoff game depending on how things play out, but if they want to control that, they have to have this game. So does Dobyns-Bennett. Let's throw out a scenario here. If Jefferson County beats Dobyns-Bennett beats Science Hill, you're looking at potentially a 3-way tie for first place. So this game is big for a variety of reasons in terms of standings. But as far as Jefferson County goes, last year their line had their way with Dobyns-Bennett. This game, once again, like any football game, it's going to be won and lost at the line of scrimmage. Dobyns-Bennett, they have to get that push that they got this past week against West Ridge. That's going to be big for the Tribe. For Jefferson County, this year their go-to is clear. Running back Skylar Thomas, 3 games into the year, he already has over 500 yards rushing. And obviously, Jeff County returns their quarterback Mason Henderson. This year, he's spreading it out. There's not really that one Bryson Letterman like he had last year. He's spreading it out between several different receivers. Sean Jackson, another running back guy who had a kickoff return last week, who's also a pass-catching threat out of the backfield. So this Jefferson County team, if they're going to turn their season around, this is the time to do it. And this is also the time, if you're Dobyns-Bennett, this is the time for the Indians to make a statement. And Joey Christian, we'll get his thoughts on this game here in just a moment.
They are big, physical guys. I mean, it reminds you a lot of Greenville in the way that they're so big and physical up front. Those guys, pretty much every offensive lineman, but maybe one flips over and plays defense. I'm thinking the right tackle does not. That's right. The right tackle is the only one that don't play any defense. So kind of like us, really, in a lot of ways, how, our 5 offensive linemen, all 5 of them is going to play on defensive line at some point, just kind of rotate those guys through. So, I've told our guys, listen, up front in the line of scrimmage, it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a 48-minute fight, a fist fight in the octagon, in the ring. But this is going to be played on a football field. But the winner's going to win those individual matchups on the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. The one that scares you to death, Sean Jackson. That kid can fly. I suspect he's the fastest guy on their team. With jet sweeps, and then when they get it to him in the pass game, he's fast as can be. We've got to get him hemmed up. We can't get him in open space. If he's in open space, it's probably going to be a touchdown. We certainly need a big crowd. Our kids need the support. I think they've showed in our 2 home games. We're an exciting team to watch. So we need Jay Fred to be rocking Friday night, and maybe that can play in our favor. That can be and should be a big advantage to us when the band and the spirit shakers, the cheerleaders, and everybody's there, student section, and then along with all the other crowd. If we get the bigger crowd we have, the better it's going to be. We need a lot of people there Friday night.
That game kicks off 7 o'clock, J. Fred Johnson Stadium this Friday night. A huge game, guys. And speaking of big games, Jeff, speaking of Science Hill, they host a Union team. You talk about the unstoppable force against the immovable object. Union has not been scored on this year. Yeah,
they've played 2 games so far this year. Union out of Big Stone Gap, Virginia, and they've won 100-0 in their 2 games. They beat Lee 47-0 last week. Ridgelands 53-0. Union's got some players. Pretty skilled guys. Cam Bostic, he's the quarterback. He played wide receiver for them last year. Braxton Bunch, he's another guy who can do it all. He's a little bit like Baylor Necessary we talked about for Science Hill. I think last week he had a punt return for a touchdown. He had a receiving touchdown. He can run the ball. He can do a little bit of everything that they need right there. And then up front, another team's pretty big up front. So Science Hill's going to have a challenge with that. But I believe the Hilltoppers, showed last week against Jefferson County they can handle a big line like that, but it promises to be a pretty good game there at Kermit-Tipton Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. And going into that game, Science Hill looking for their first 3-0 start since 2017. And, we spoke on the top 10 in the state in the TSWA polls. Science Hill did come in at number 10 there in Class 6A. So getting some respect from the Riders across Tennessee there, coming in at number 10 in the polls. A few other games we can look at this week to preview. Got Cherokee going into Elizabethton for a Region 1 4A battle there. And Cherokee has not beaten Elizabethton since 2003, and that was in the first round of the playoffs there. So Cherokee trying to kind of break that long losing streak against Elizabethton. And Cherokee does look a little better this year. And Elizabethton looked really good against Granger. But you just think, do you give Cherokee any kind of chance going into Elizabethton? I mean, JD, do you give it?
Well, the Cherokee, chances aside, if Cherokee wants to have a home playoff game, this is a game they need. And same goes for Elizabethton, especially when you think ahead, between Elizabethton and Greenville. That's way down the road, obviously, but this is a game that both teams need if they want a chance to host a playoff game. Landon Jeffers got to do his thing. Obviously, Cherokee, with the loss last week, they had won, 6 of 7, their last 7 regular season games. Obviously, 6 of 8 now. But this is a game that, history aside, the Chiefs have to have. They know they have to have. Same for Elizabethton if you want to get that home playoff game in November.
Yeah, for sure. And then another game, Sullivan East coming off that win against Volunteer, going over to Unicoi County, coming off that big win against Pigeon Forge. What are you liking in this game, Jeff?
Well, I mean, JD talked about Kobe Jones earlier. I mean, he's just such a fabulous athlete, whether you're talking football field, basketball court, the baseball diamond. I mean, he sort of leads that group. I mean, I know we talk about some of the same guys. Saltz, we talked about him. You also have those receivers, Coda, Cutlup, and, some of those guys who are, I think going to be pretty hard for East to stop, just to be honest with you.
Yeah, and of course, Unicoi County, they bring in the experience in this game. Sullivan East with a bit of a younger team in this game. So Unicoi County does have the edge there. Another one over there, going over to Carter County, Hampton 0-3, looking for their first win, and they visit Happy Valley, who hasn't played a game since August 23rd. They're in Week 1. Of course, their Week 2 game against Unicoi got canceled because of lightning, and then they had the bye week last week, so they've been off a couple weeks. Andrew, I'm going to go to you on this. What do you like in this Hampton versus Happy Valley matchup?
Yeah, on the Happy Valley side, you mentioned it. They haven't played a full game since Week 1, so it's a little bit of rest versus rust. Do they feel refreshed? Are they good to go? Or is there a little bit of rust, only getting a game and a half in, basically? How do they respond to that? Meanwhile, Hampton, when I talked to Michael Lunsford during media days before the season got started, he said, hey, these first 3 games we got, they're going to be tough on us. We're playing up all 3 games in classification, and he's like, if we can win those games, great, but honestly, we just want to get things we can improve upon and stay healthy, and I think they've been able to do that. As frustrating it might be for the folks in Hampton, but the big key for me will be, can Hampton get the running game going? Dominic Burleson, we know what kind of threat he can be in the running game. Obviously, one of the top rushers in the area last year, had another strong start this year at times, but the big reason I say that is in Week 1, Happy Valley played a Cloudland team that runs a similar type of offense in terms of the fact that they are run heavy, and they didn't give up any points. It was a very stout Warrior defense against Cloudland, and I would think that their approach defensively going into this game will be very similar to the one they employed against Cloudland. So, can the Hampton offensive line get some push? Can Dominic Burleson find some holes, break some runs, and can Hampton go into Warrior Hill, the place where Hampton last lost a game in the series back my senior year of high school in 2019? Can they go into Warrior Hill and get a win? It's going to be a tough environment. We know that Happy Valley can be rocking, but that's going to be the big key for me. Hampton's offensive line versus Happy Valley's defensive front.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder if Happy Valley's going to be rusty or resty,
Exactly.
Taking some of that time off there. So there are some previews for Week 4 games in Tennessee high school football. Y'all have any final thoughts before we close out the show? Any?
Well, the other thing is Happy Valley's offense. We've harped on their defense and everything, but can they get their offense going? Fun fact, it's been not since your senior year, that time that Happy Valley won, Happy Valley hasn't scored on Hampton since then. Yep. So the key is Happy Valley needs to get its offense going as well. That'll also be a key in addition to the Happy Valley defense, which we've been so big on. The Happy Valley offense, what can they do against Hampton?
Yeah, great point, JD. You got something, Jeff?
Just seems like time flies when you're having fun here at this high school football season. Already a third of the way into the regular season here.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that this Friday, we'll be covering Week 4 games, and we are flying through it. So make sure y'all check out JohnsonCityPress.com, TimesNews.net to read all the full game stories and the preview stories of the high school football season. Follow us all football season long here on the Sports Huddle podcast, and we'll bring you all the insight and the discussions taking place in the area. We thank you all for tuning in, and make sure you all hit that subscribe button. Make sure you all like the show to keep up with all the updates of the Sports Huddle, brought to you by Six Rivers Media. This was episode 4. Appreciate you all tuning in, and catch you all next Thursday.
Lazy J Farms has been raising the finest cattle in all-natural pork for 3 generations. Our blonde Aquitaine herd offers a leaner, healthier, and more tasteful beef that ships from our store directly to your freezer. This is the way your grandfather shot for meat, only now we wrap it, seal it, and send it right to your door. We have plenty of options to pick from, and they're all fresh and natural. Just visit our website at lazyjbeef.com and choose your package. We'll get it straight to you.